In this video, we're going to focus in on industrial psychology. We'll touch on some of the aspects of employee selection, as well as talk about different approaches and issues surrounding performance assessment. Employees are most often selected from applications that are submitted to job applications. Now, the descriptions in these applications can be either task-oriented or worker-oriented. So task-oriented advertisements are going to list in detail the tasks that will be performed for the job. On the other hand, worker-oriented descriptions are going to describe the characteristics that are needed to be successful on the job. So what knowledge do you need? What skills do you need? What abilities do you need? The United States Department of Labor maintains a database of previously compiled job analysis for different jobs and occupations. It's called ONET. I've linked it on Canvas if you'd like to kind of browse through and get a better understanding of this. Now, once someone has filled out an application, the employer has to figure out how they are going to select their new employee from the set of applications that they receive. So often they'll go through something that's called a candidate analysis. This can involve different testing, interviews, work samples, exercises. They might do a personality test to see if your personality is a fit for the job. Other tests might include an IQ test to see if you're capable of completing the job, an integrity test. My husband actually does a lot of screening of applicants. He's kind of a third party that places people at other companies. And so I guess a form of integrity test would be the background checks that they do on these candidates. And then physical tests. His company also routinely has to do drug tests on their candidates before placing them. Some other types of jobs might require a physical fitness test, such as if you're going to be a police officer or a fireman or something like that. Now, selecting these employees from those job applicants is also going to involve some sort of interview process. And many of you have probably been through this interview process at some point in your lives already. Interviews can be influenced by social factors, by body language, the degree of similarity of the applicant to the interviewer, nonverbal behaviors, hand gestures, head nodding, smiling, your body position, the way you hold yourself. Research has found that a lack of eye contact and smiling actually lead to lower applicant ratings. So there are different types of interviews. So the unstructured interview is where there's different questions for different candidates. It's probably a little bit more of a casual type of interview. Questions are usually unspecified beforehand. So sometimes when you go into an interview, you might actually know what some of the questions are going to be. If you don't, you might want to look up some examples so you can kind of practice running through what your responses might be. Now, a structured interview, you're going to have the same questions for every candidate. Questions are prepared in advance, so everybody who's part of the interview process has those questions and can kind of think about what kind of responses they want to those questions. There may be a standardized rating system for each response. And these are really kind of more effective at predicting subsequent job performance of the actual job candidate. Now, once the employer has made a selection and hired that employee, at some point there's going to be an evaluation of those employees. And industrial and organizational psychologists are often involved in designing these performance appraisals for different organizations. So the aim is to make the evaluations as fair and positive as possible and decrease subjectivity. So performance appraisal is going to evaluate your success or your lack of success at performing your job duties. Often it's used to motivate employees to improve their performance and expand their areas of competence, to let you know what areas you're excelling in and what areas maybe you need to do a little bit better in. Sometimes these performance appraisals could be quarterly, they could be biannual, or they could be annual. It just kind of depends on the company. So a 300-degree feedback appraisal, also known as a multi-rater feedback assessment, is a performance evaluation process that's going to gather feedback from multiple sources to help the employees improve their work performance and skills. It's going to include feedback from others, self-evaluation, maybe some anonymous feedback, and the feedback is going to be collected and analyzed to ensure that it's reliable and valid. So it provides different perspectives of the employee's job performance. So your direct supervisor may have one opinion, your peer may have a different opinion, and customers might see a different point of view as well, because you're interacting with them in different ways. Now, of course, with this hiring of employees and the feedback that we get, these appraisals, performance appraisals that we have to have done, there needs to be ways to protect employees. So to protect employees, there is the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and it oversees a variety of different things. There's the Equal Pay Act. This requires equal pay for men and women in the same workplace who are performing equal work, although we know that still doesn't necessarily happen. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act from 1964. This makes it illegal to treat individuals unfavorably because of their race or color of their skin. Unfortunately, this probably happens more than it should still as well. There's the Pregnancy Discrimination Act of 1978. This prohibits job discrimination of a woman because she's pregnant as long as she can perform the work required. And this was important because, back before the 1970s, probably even maybe the 1980s, when a woman became pregnant, oftentimes it was thought she was just going to quit her job, stay home, and raise the baby. So now obviously there's a lot of women in the workforce, a lot of working mothers in the workforce. And so this has allowed women, once they're pregnant, to not have to worry about losing their job. There's the Americans with Disabilities Act, where employees cannot discriminate against any individual who has a disability, whether this disability is a physical or mental impairment. And in the past, it's included things like hearing, walking, breathing, but it's been expanded to include individuals with alcoholism, former drug use, obesity, or psychiatric disabilities. And there are others, but that's all we have time to discuss in this video.